I'm going to try to set real quick up a model that has 3 flap settings and how to use Butterfly in the quickest way I feel to do it. So I'm just going to bang through it real fast and we'll see how it goes here. So I've already set up a basic model with a tail elevator and 2 flaps, and so all the functions are all set up in here already. So you can see that I've got all these functions set up just from the basic model. And that's all I've done. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into fine tuning, and we're going to go to the flight modes, because what we want to do is set this up by flight modes. So there's a default flight mode in there, and what I do with that, you can leave it default, but I'll go ahead and name it just out of ease of help, is I'll just name that something else like takeoff, you know. And so we'll just go down here and go takeoff. Just real quick. It doesn't really matter which one you use, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put a 1.5 second delay, and this becomes my basic one. And then I can put a sound file on this if I want, but you'll notice in the upper left it already says takeoff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add one, and we want to copy the highlight mode, and then we're going to add another one, and we want to copy the highlight mode. And now we go in here and we change this to something else, like let's say cruise. So I'm just going to put a C for cruise for now, and that would be flaps up. And then, you know, the next one down here we would put something like flaps down. So I'm just going to put a D on that one just to make it fast. And so now you have your 3 flight modes, and the trick is the switches, is to get it set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the flight modes on the SD switch, which is the flap switch for most people that fly any sort of complex airplane use the one above the throttle, which is SD on this one. So we're going to go up here, and so this is the takeoff position. So we're going to put our switch, let me slide over here, we're going to put our switch out of the takeoff position. So like right now it's in the cruise position all the way up. So I'm going to go over here and roll to the switch, and then I'm going to move it to the takeoff position, and it picks it right up, and it puts a check mark there. Okay, and the check mark is important. Now I'm going to go back and show you why that's important in a little bit. Okay, so then we're going to go down to cruise and see the switch is in the takeoff position. So we're going to move it back to the cruise position, and it'll pick that up too. So that's good. And then the other one is really default, and that's why there's no switch position. So now when I move the switch, you'll see in the upper left corner there, it says cruise, takeoff, and down, or landing, whatever. So the modes are all set. That's good. Okay, this is part 2 of that setup. Now the hard part begins, and this is where guys get confused. I want my butterfly control to be my flap control, and my elevator adjustment, and my gyro gain, and everything. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come over here and we're going to set up the butterfly by going over here and putting it in S mode, and that means it'll follow the system or the flight modes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and this is the hard part, so you have to watch carefully. We're going to set the control to be this SD switch, but you'll see that the square is here like that, and we've got to get rid of the square by getting rid of the proportion control, so that we've got a check mark next to that input control, and we're going to have to do this 3 times. So we've done that, and then here, let's do that again. So this is the takeoff, so we want to be, I want to be out of the takeoff position, so let's redo that. All right, and you see that when I'm in takeoff, or when I'm in the cruise mode, it went to SD, and then and that's X is next to it. So I've got to fix that X by making it a check mark, and this is a trial and error process, so that each time I move the switch, it'll say SD check mark, and you see that it doesn't. So that one's set up correctly. Now we'll go to the next one. It doesn't matter what it is, but we're going to move the switch, and then we're going to put it back to the position we want it. So now see, you can see the flight modes move. So I needed to fix this one to a check mark, so we're going to get rid of that. So there's the check mark. So now I've got the top one set as a check, the middle one set as a check. Now I've got to fix the bottom one. So we're going to do that, and here it is. Put it in that position. Put it in that position. we're going to play around with it until we get the check mark again. And you just have to play around with the 3 switches to get it. Now I've got a check mark, and a check mark in each position, because these are different flight modes. And so what it is the butterfly is now active in each of the 3 flight modes. And so now what happens is when you go into the aileron flap adjustment down here, you can do it for each flight mode. So if you're one of those guys that sets up your flaps in takeoff position for the middle, you know, and that's where you make your neutral over there. See, and you don't put any function calls on this. So I'll go back and show you that. So now I can just go right in here and I can put my flaps in. So let's say takeoff is going to be 0 because that's where I aligned them where I want them. I just pull the switch. You see it switches flight modes to down. And now I can, you know, just basically crank in some down flap, and then I can put the, you know, flip the switch to cruise, and then I can, you know, go the other way and I can put my flaps in. And you can do the exact same thing with your elevator for your crow, or your elevator adjustment, excuse me, and you can do the same thing with the ailerons up here for your crow. So in the up position, you know, we would have, you know, 0, for instance. In takeoff, we might have, oh, I don't know, you know, 6%, and then down elevator we might have, you know, 10% or 13 or something like that. So then finally, the last thing you want to do, and actually I needed to do this first, is I needed to go into function assignments. And so we're going to go to model function assignment, and we're going to roll down here and we're going to make sure that the flaps do not have anything assigned to them. So we're going to clear that. And that's because we want the system to drive the flaps. And that's where people make the mistake right there, is they have the stick on it, and they have the butterfly and the stick doing both controls, and those controls will conflict now. And so now that it's set up this way, I should be able to just go right to the servo page here, and then just move the flap switch, and you'll see them moving. See the 2 flap channels are moving just fine, and you've got elevator or aileron compensation going there. The flap channels are 3 and 4. So it all moves perfectly. So that's how you set up a jet so that the flaps will move. And then you don't really need to worry about the endpoints and all that stuff, because you won't get combined mixes. The butterfly handles everything. All right, that's it.